So we did a lot of funded research by industry which supposedly showed that high carbohydrate diets are beneficial. And I've written part of my book, The Law of Running, part of the section on high carbohydrate diets. I mean, there's all the references. And it's not as if what I said was wrong, it was just badly interpreted. And the reality is, if you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, you have to have carbohydrates, or else you run into trouble. And you know, we struggled for about 5 years to prove that carbohydrates improve your performance. And we weren't the first to show it. And in fact, we very seldom showed any benefit. But we were just going along the same old route. But a chap called Ed Coyle from University of Texas at Austin, what he did was he starved people for 12 hours. And then he had them exercise for 4 hours. And the group that exercised for 4 hours were taking carbohydrates at high rates. And the group that stopped at 3 hours, they stopped because their blood glucose concentrations had fallen. And so therefore it was clear, carbohydrates improve performance. So that was it, now we knew. And how could you argue against that? And the answer was that he was dealing with carbohydrate adapted athletes. That was the first one, and then we did quite a few carbohydrate loading studies, and always, if you carbohydrate load the guys, they do better. But then we did a placebo-controlled trial where we gave the people no carbohydrates, but they were sweetened. They thought they were getting carbohydrates. And we had them race over 100 kilometers in the laboratory, and there was no benefit to carbohydrate loading. So you know how I raised it up? I said, oh, it's obviously because we gave them carbohydrates during the race. That masked the effect, you see, of this high carbohydrate diet. And that was nonsense, because that's called ad hoc change to your hypothesis, which you're not allowed to do. The reality was, under placebo-controlled conditions, there was no benefit. Therefore, you have to say there was no benefit. And that's the only placebo-controlled trial. All the rest are done by researchers who absolutely believe carbohydrate loading, to athletes who absolutely believe carbohydrate loading. And then under those, with that combination, the placebo effect will always be huge. And the only way to do these trials properly is that they have to be properly blinded, and they have to be done by people who aren't funded by the industry. So the end result of all this research was that we were funded by industry, and we were always going to rephrase that. You have to understand the mentality of the scientist. The scientist is more interested in where's he going to get funding from next year than what the outcome of the results are. The only truly great scientists are the ones who are independent. They don't care what the result is because they're still going to get money for their research. So, but when you're funded by industry, you're going to find in the favor of industry, always. And so we did that. Until eventually I realized that the carbohydrates and forcing people to drink a lot during exercise was not beneficial. And we used industry money to disprove the value of carbohydrates ingested during exercise. And so eventually we got off that bandwagon, but it took a long time. But as soon as we started disproving the idea that carbohydrates are good for you during exercise, the funding dried up. And it was time to move on.